So in practice, I've already choked twice looking at this film, and it just never goes old for me. So 13 years later, is the gold getting a bit old for you, Abhinav? How has the sport moved? I know it's a sweeping question.
Well, the very fact that you're opening the India Today conclave with a session on Olympic sport tells me that we've made progress. The very fact that you've invited me back for something I did 13 summers ago tells me our progress has been slow, at least for my liking. But having said that, I think there has been a great evolution in the last decade of the Indian athlete. I grew up in an era where we were a defensive lot. I was personally a darpok. The Indian athlete of today is fearless. The Indian athlete of today has the self-belief that I never did. And I could go on and say that a lot of my teammates never did. But I think there's a big change also in the environment that surrounds Indian sport. You know, when we used to travel to the Olympic Games, we were written off even before we boarded the flight to the Olympic Games. Now a red carpet is rolled out in our send-off of our teams to the Olympic Games, and there's a great warm welcome, whether you lose or whether you win, even when you come back. I think support to at least elite athletes is being made available more than ever. I think the Indian athlete of today has the sort of resources and support that no other athlete in the world enjoys at the elite level. But of course, I made many points 13 years ago as well, and I think many points still remain relevant to the day, and we still need to make progress in many fronts. But I think the next decade or so will be a decade for sport in India. We are such a young country. Sport is being consumed much more by people. More people are playing sport, more people are watching sport. So sport is slowly but surely becoming a priority for all stakeholders. It is important to governments. It's important for you all. Given the fact you have 4 sessions on Olympic sport at this very conclave, tells me that the audience is interested in hearing about Olympic sport. On a personal level, it's been 13 years, and now that I've exited my investment of sorts, I can look back at my career far more dispassionately. And I don't really look back at my career at those medals that I won, which hang on a wall. But I really look back at my career at the relationships that I was able to build with people, with my mom and my dad, for example, with my coaches, with my larger entourage, for example. And basically the sort of person I became in the process of winning that gold medal. Sport taught me a lot of things. It taught me a little bit about winning, but sport taught me how to lose. It taught me honesty, it taught me integrity, it taught me how to set a goal, it taught me how to deal with conflict, it taught me a lot about respect, about respecting others and finding my own self-respect, and has left me in good stead to deal with the larger game of life.
So one little medal, but a lot attached to it. Neeraj, आप कहाँ थे 2008 में जब अभिनव बिंद्रा ने गोल्ड मेडल जीता? कितने साल के थे?
नमस्ते जी सभी को। मैं बताना चाहूँगा कि मुझे सच बताऊँ तो कुछ था ही नहीं कि मैं जब तक स्पोर्ट करूँगा कि नहीं। गांव में था और स्कूल में जाते थे उस टाइम, पर स्पोर्ट्स का कुछ नहीं पता था। तो मुझे सच बताऊँ तो उस टाइम मैं ओलंपिक को फॉलो भी नहीं कर रहा था। जब मैंने शुरू किया कुछ टाइम बाद पता लगा कि अकेले इंडिविजुअल ऐसे एथलीट हैं इंडिविजुअल स्पोर्ट के जिनके पास गोल्ड है, और बड़ा प्राउड फील होता था कि मतलब कि सर अकेले एक ऐसा एथलीट है। और फॉलो करने के लिए हम सभी ने काफ़ी कोशिश की थी, मतलब बाकी सभी एथलीट कोशिश कर रहे हैं, लेकिन कई साल से हो नहीं पा रहा था। लेकिन सर का भी एक बहुत बड़ा मैंने देखा था कि ट्विटर पे पढ़ा था कि ये इनके मन से एक था कि भाई फॉलो करेंगे टोक्यो में हमको, और मतलब और गोल्ड आ सकते हैं। हाँ। तो वो जब जीता तो सबसे पहले तो मैंने बोला था कि मिल्खा सिंह जी का एक वो मुझे याद आई थी, और सर का अकेला गोल्ड था। फिर ऐसा फील हुआ था कि नहीं, हमारे अंदर भी वो चीज़ है, हम भी कर सकते हैं। तो अब मुझे लगता है कि आने वाले टाइम में ये सिलसिला बना रहेगा।
तो आप सर के बारे में कब जाने? बाद में जब आप फील्ड पे आए तब?
हाँ, जब काफ़ी साल बाद जब मैंने शुरू किया, जब मैं एथलेटिक्स के अलावा दूसरे स्पोर्ट्स फॉलो करने लगा, तब मुझे सर के बारे में पता लगा कि अकेले हमारे ऐसे एथलीट है जिनके पास गोल्ड है। तो एक बहुत ही ज़बरदस्त चीज़ लगती थी।
और आप उनसे मिले थे टोक्यो जाने से पहले?
नहीं, मैं सर से फर्स्ट टाइम मोहाली में मिला सर, है ना? फर्स्ट टाइम मोहाली में मिला था मैं तो 2018 में एशियन गेम्स के बाद। टोक्यो के बाद भी मिला।
टोक्यो के बाद मिलके क्या किया आपने?
सबसे पहले तो सर ने बोला था कि मैंने 10 साल से अपने मेडल को छुआ नहीं है, वो मेडल निकलवाया मैंने, क्योंकि मेरा भी टोक्यो का मेडल मेरे पास था गोल्ड, और सर का भी, क्योंकि इंडिया में 2 ही ऐसे मेडल है, तो मैंने बोला सर प्लीज़ मैं इन दोनों को एक बार फील करना चाहता हूँ। तो सर थोड़ा ऐसे लग रहे थे कि ये पसंद नहीं कर रहे हैं उस चीज़ को, क्योंकि सच बताऊं तो मेरी भी एक ऐसी आदत है कि मैं अपने मेडल को अभी रख दूंगा, और मैं चाहता हूं कि अभी अगले टारगेट पे नज़र रखूं। तो सर का भी ऐसे मुझे फील हुआ कि इनको वो चीज़ पसंद नहीं है कि एक बार जीत लिया बार बार उसी चीज़ को ऐसे दिखाते रहे कि मैंने गोल्ड जीता। ये बड़े काम जो है मैंने देखा है, बड़े काम हैं। तो मैंने बोला कि सर प्लीज़ आप निकालो, तो थोड़ा मैं भी शाई फील करता हूँ, सर मुझसे भी ज़्यादा शाई लगे मुझे कि ऐसे कैसे पोज करना है मेडल को लेके, नहीं मुझे नहीं पता ऐसे, मतलब वो काफ़ी शाई लग रहे थे। लेकिन बहुत अच्छा लगा उस दिन, मैं जब दोनों मेडल को ले रहा था और मैं बोल रहा था कि ये दोनों दो ही है हमारे पास मेडल है इंडिया में, और दोनों आज मेरे हाथ में है, तो बहुत अच्छा लग रहा था उस दिन।
लॉकर में क्या बंद करके रखा हुआ था अभिनव ने?
No, no, it's in a display case.
Well, this medals and my achievements mean a lot to my parents. It left to me. I would put it in like a kitchen cabinet or something. But there is a room in my house which has all these things lying around. So, yeah. I know you wanted me to bring it, but sorry, there was no way that I was going to bring it
No,
along.
I respect that. I respect that, and you've given us a much larger sort of meaning to the medal. It's not just about that piece of metal, right? Manisha, now Neeraj has already held those 2 medals in his hand, and you have, of course, been with the 2 athletes when they won the medals. Like, they were probably the first people, you talked to them when they won the medal. How are the 2 medals different?
Well, I mean, it's really, comparing the 2 sports for starters is not really doing any justice. We have one sport where you're trying your hardest to be still, not move, not breathe, count your heartbeats. And then we have another sport where you're trying to kind of move so many elements at the same time. You're running up, and albeit in a very efficient manner. So it's not doing justice if I compare the 2. Just as the comparison between shooting and javelin are, that's the personality of these 2 too. So they're very, very different medals. There was, the journeys were very, very different. One, Abhinav was in his 3rd Olympics, and that medal was some sort of a redemption medal. It was, it was always meant to be after Athens. It was, the solace after so much disappointment. And it was the kind of light at the end of the tunnel, and it was a very long and dark tunnel. And Abhinav will, he doesn't like to relive those days. And now looking back, it was worth the journey, of course. But during the times, it was not such a fun time. It was a time of a lot of struggle. It was a time of a lot of anguish. And redemption was the only thing on his mind. And then cut to 13 years later, where we have this fellow, and it was his first Olympics, and it was like, okay, ये Olympics देखते हैं कैसे होता है, बढ़िया throw आएगा, madam जी, फिक्र मत करो, हम जा रहे हैं. So it was very nonchalant, and he's like, okay, let's go see what this Olympics is all about. So, I mean, not to take away from his hard work, which was completely off the charts, but it was a very different perspective, and they were both very heartening in their own ways. And of course, the medal at the end makes it all the more special, not just for them, but for all of us. As they both said, the medal is the country's and not theirs. So it's been a real privilege and an honor to be, through the journey.
Manisha, I mean, what are the things that Abhinav did? Abhinav, you left no stone unturned, right, in the quest for gold. Do you want to tell us some of the crazy things you did?
There was a few of them. He used to call me all the time at one point and be like, okay, we need to find the edge. So now you need to find me something new to try. And I need to try something new this week. So Abhinav, why don't you enlighten us?
I had forgotten about all what I did. And in preparation for this session today, I had to actually make notes and look back at my autobiography. But I'll give you a few instances because, I really try to take every vertical out of the equation in trying to prepare for the games. Of course, there's a mental side to my sport. There is a physical side to my sport. There's a technical side to my sport. And there's a tactical side to my sport. So I had to break everything down into these various verticals and work on these individually. So for example, on the mental side, I went to South Africa and got my brain mapped. I was there in a laboratory where 32 areas of my brain, I did not even know that there were 32 areas of my brain, got mapped. And, I shot 3,000 shots. And after 3,000 shots, we analyzed that when I was shooting well, there was a certain sort of brain activity that was happening. And then through the use of science and technology, we were able to recreate and get back into that mind space. At that point of time, there was some research, and I read somewhere that yak milk is very good for concentration. So I imported liters and liters of yak milk, and I still have some. So if anybody's interested, get in touch with me after the session. In the test event, for example, we have a test event prior to the Olympics. I recorded the whole final because the sounds of that environment were going to be very similar in Beijing. So I would visualize in samadhi tanks. These are flotation tanks where you have 1,000 kgs of Epsom salt and you lie weightless, and I would visualize and plan what sort of a thought process I would have and link it to every announcement that was going to be made in that day on that Olympic final. I had very bad eyes as an athlete, and I was a shooter and needed good eyes, but my strength was to was on the kinesthetic sense. So I would really base my performance on feeling. So I needed to improve on that area. So I used to train in dark rooms where I couldn't see anything, but that enhanced my sense of feeling, for example. I worked with a deep sea diver to learn breathing techniques, to learn how to get calm quite quickly in 15 seconds, because that was what my sport was all about. On the physical side, I got into the sport of shooting because it did not involve movement. I was this little overweight kid who hated to move, so shooting was the best fit. But to be successful in it, I also had to get good at it, and I had to be physically fit. I used to run 10 kilometers 5 times a week because shooting is all about shooting in between heartbeats. So I had to have a very good cardiovascular system. I worked a lot on strength training. Manisha, do you remember we were in Australia one January of that summer, and I was training with a sailor. Can you tell who was it, the geeky shooter who was lifting more weights, or was it your sailor?
No, it was the geeky shooter. But
Yeah,
the same trip of Australia, we used to run to this clinic every day. And I was jet lagged, and I mean, after running 10 kilometers, he was fine. And I used to sleep the whole day. One time I even missed dinner because I slept from one morning to the next.
Yeah, so then I went to a sports dentist. I didn't even know sports dentists exist. And, I used to wear a denture. As a 20-year-old boy, I used to wear dentures because wearing that brace helped me get better range of motion in my neck. And that was something which was very important in my sport. I used to climb mountains, and one of my coaches used to take me hiking for 5 hours, and that was something which really helped me. It helped me stay in the moment, one shot at a time, because it was one step at the moment for this unfit kid who had to climb these mountains. In Australia, because I was a little overweight, I was trying to get the best body composition meant for my sport, and I was struggling a little bit with my love handles. And all what I did to lose weight, I lost weight everywhere else, but those love handles never went. So I got my love handles lasered off in Australia to get that best body composition. On the technical side, we talked about Athens, and there was a problem with the floor, so I got the shoes of my, the sole of my shoes soled with rubber, which was used in Ferrari tires, because at that point of time they had the best anti-skid properties at that point of time. What else did I do? At that point of time, my two best friends was a mochi and a carpenter, and I have great relationships with these two people because the mochi helped me with my shooting jacket to get the best fit, and this carpenter who I got from Turkmenistan helped me get the best grip on my gun. Ammunition, very important to have the perfect
He's not
ammunition.
an OCD guy, I promise you.
No.
This is a good story. Ammunition was something which was very important. At that point of time, the Chinese used to manufacture the best ammunition, but of course they didn't sell it to anybody else. So I got a friend in Hong Kong to buy me 10,000 rounds. We packed it in different branded packages, and I had to smuggle it back into the country. So I had to also become a smuggler of sorts. Don't put me in jail now, but I did that. On the tactical side, also a lot of things that were done. I went on a commando course to find courage and learn something about dealing with adrenaline and finding confidence. I worked with a ski jumper to work on how I would walk in, because ski jumpers require a lot of balance. So they taught me how to walk to activate various parts of my body. I used to carry a pocket mirror everywhere because I used to carry a lot of facial tension. So every half an hour or so during courses of my career, I used to see myself, get this pocket mirror out and see myself and relax my facial tension. And just to end, and I'm sorry I've taken a little while, the most important thing in preparation for Beijing was I had to have a tactical preparation on how to avoid the media, because that was very important. So you know what I did? I carried a book to Beijing, and every time a media person kind of approached me, I would open this book and get really interested in my reading. And till date, I don't even know the title of that book. So, Neeraj बहुत पापड़ बेलने पड़े थे for this.
So that's a long list. If anyone thought gold medals are easy, they're not. I mean, you've just been through that. Neeraj, आपने क्या किया?
No, he can't match that. I'm sorry. There's no way.
मैंने मैम इतना तो नहीं किया, लेकिन मैं अगर कोच के साथ, अगर मैं जिस कोच पे बिलीव, अगर मुझे ये बोल देगा ना कि छत से कूद जाते इतनी ज़्यादा थ्रो चली जाएगी, तो मैं बोलता हूँ कि मैं छत से भी कूद जाऊँगा। मतलब जितना कोच वर्कआउट बोलता है वो मैं कभी भी अगर उस समय से छोड़ देता हूँ, मान लो चाहे एक रेपिटेशन मैंने छोड़ दिया, तो मुझे इतनी गिल्टी फील होती है कि मैंने बहुत बड़ा गुनाह कर दिया आज, तो मैं वो वर्कआउट कभी नहीं छोड़ता।
क्या आपका हेयर स्टाइल आप कहोगे कि आपके टैलेंट को हेल्प करता है? क्योंकि काफ़ी टाइम के लिए आपने एक
नहीं, हेल्प तो नहीं करता मैम, ये आंखों पे आ रहे थे, मैंने इसलिए कटवाई थी ओलंपिक से पहले। मैंने
अच्छा।
सोचा कि यार कभी कुछ गड़बड़ होगी ना, बोलेंगे कि फुकरा हो रहा था, लंबे बाल करके चला गया वहाँ पे। तो मैंने सोचा कि पहले इनको, क्योंकि वो 2-3 कंपटीशन मैंने कैप वगैरह डाला था और बंडाना भी डाला था, तो कुछ भी काम नहीं कर रहा था। वो थ्रो में जब हम लास्ट अटैक करते हैं तो वो कैप भी निकल रहा था, सब कुछ वो निकल के पसीना फेस पे आ रहा था, पूरा बाल भी फेस पे आ रहे थे, तो उनकी तरफ ज़्यादा ध्यान देना पड़ता, कॉन्सेंट्रेट 50% बालों की तरफ जाता था कई बार। तो मैंने सोचा कि इनको कटवा देते हैं, पूरा ध्यान इस पे, ये तो घर की खेती है, दोबारा फिर रुक जाएंगे जी।
On this exact day, नीरज, मैं तेरे को बोल रही थी, ये पोर्चुगल में था, मैं बोल रही थी चल मेरे साथ हेयर कट के लिए, बोला नहीं 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 नहीं, मेरे बाल अभी अच्छे दिख रहे हैं।
फिर लोगों ने उनके लिए जुल्फे वाले गाने भी तो गाए ना, मनीषा।
Well, I mean, I think that, you know, we all bask in this glory of the gold medals, and most of us only see these gold medals. And some of us, like me, come see the back, and they come at a price. And that's quite a heavy price. It's not always easy. The journey is not always easy. The pain that you know, that is behind this, and the blood and the sweat and the tears, and there is a lot of it. Believe me when I tell you that. Neeraj, आपको कैसे लगता है कि आपको कितना डिफिकल्ट लगा जो आपको सर्जरी करना पड़ा, और फिर वो सर्जरी के बाद ओलंपिक्स बहुत पास आ रहे थे, तो आपको क्या लगता है, आपको वो जर्नी जो आप हॉस्पिटल बेड से लेके बिल्कुल पीबी तक, कितना डिफिकल्ट था आपके लिए?
मैं मानता हूँ कि मैम जो सर्जरी के बाद
These
जो
are the
रेस्ट वाला
bones
टाइम
that
था,
came out of his elbow. But these were the shards of bone that he had to remove, just to give everybody a little.
नहीं बिल्कुल,
intro.
जब बिल्कुल बेड रेस्ट बोला था तब ज़्यादा प्रॉब्लम हुई थी, क्योंकि ऐसा लग रहा था कि कुछ है ही नहीं करने को। लेकिन जब मेरी ट्रेनिंग शुरू हुई, डॉक्टर ने बोल दिया था कि 1 वीक बाद कि आप थोड़ा ट्रेनिंग वगैरह, साइकिलिंग वगैरह शुरू कर सकते हो, तो मैंने सोचा कि मेरी पूरी ट्रेनिंग शुरू हो गई अभी, तो मैंने पहले दिन ही हाफ एन आवर 45 मिनट्स पूरा तेज साइकिल चला दिया, तो वो पूरा जो मेरे टांके थे वो गल गए थे, क्योंकि मैंने बहुत ज़्यादा ट्रेनिंग कर दी थी। ऐसे उन्होंने सिर्फ ऐसे बोला था कि आप फिटनेस थोड़ा शुरू कर सकते हैं, क्योंकि उनको लग रहा था कि मैं बहुत ज़्यादा मेरा मन है दोबारा करने का शुरू प्रैक्टिस, तो उन्होंने थोड़ी मुझे छूट दे दी, तो मैंने पूरा ही पेल दिया, फिर पूरा साइकिलिंग। तो फिर डॉक्टर के पास गया, बोले यार तूने ये क्या कर दिया, पूरा वो टांके वगैरह गल गए थे। फिर मुझे 10-15 दिन का पूरा बेड रेस्ट दिया दोबारा, तो वो टाइम बहुत मुश्किल था। लेकिन मैं मानता हूँ कि जब मेरी ट्रेनिंग शुरू हो जाए, मतलब मेरे पास हो कुछ करने को, कि मैं दोबारा जिम जा रहा हूँ या कुछ कर रहा हूँ, तो तब मुझे इतना प्रॉब्लम नहीं हुई मैम। लेकिन जब पूरा बेड रेस्ट दिया था, जब ज़्यादा दिक्कत हो रही थी। एक आधी बार बुरा जब लगता था कि जब सभी एथलीट्स खेल रहे थे, और पता नहीं ऐसा मुझे लगता है कि होता है कि जहाँ पे मैं नहीं खेलता हूँ वहाँ पे मेडल बहुत कम में आता है। दोहा वर्ल्ड चैंपियनशिप हुई थी, उधर 86 कुछ में गोल्ड गया, सभी डायमंड लीग्स में 2019 में सभी में 83-84 मीटर में गोल्ड जा रहे थे। तो मुझे ऐसा फील हो रहा था यार मैं नहीं खेल रहा हूँ तो सभी इतना मतलब ऐसा रिजल्ट आ रहा है, और मैं जब खेलता हूँ तो मेरे पर्सनल बेस्ट भी करता हूँ तब भी मैं 4th आता था कई बार। तो फर्स्ट टाइम हिस्ट्री में ऐसा हुआ था जब मैं दोहा डायमंड लीग खेल रहा था कि मैंने 87.43 मीटर लगाया कॉमनवेल्थ से आने के बाद, और वो मेरा पर्सनल बेस्ट था। मैं सोच रहा था कि ये मेरा डायमंड लीग में पोजीशन हो सकती है अभी फर्स्ट टाइम, लेकिन फर्स्ट टाइम हिस्ट्री में ऐसा हुआ तीनों थ्रोअर्स ने 90 से ऊपर फेंक दिया। मैं कहा यार क्या हो रहा है, तो उस टाइम थोड़ा सा ऐसा लगता था कि यार इस साल नहीं हो रहा, लेकिन मन में ये बात थी कि नहीं अभी कम बैक बहुत अच्छे से करना है। इंस्पायर इंस्टीट्यूट में मैंने काफ़ी अच्छी वो अपना रिहैब किया, फिजियो था साथ में, सभी JSW की पूरी सपोर्ट थी, और वहाँ पे स्ट्रेंथ ट्रेनिंग कंडीशनिंग के और मतलब डाइट वगैरह के लिए काफ़ी ध्यान रखने के लिए थे। तो दिमाग में एक ही चीज़ थी, अगर कम बैक करना है ना, क्योंकि मैं बीच में मेरे दिमाग में आया था कि मैं एक कंपटीशन खेल लेता हूँ, लेकिन दिमाग में एक ही चीज़ थी कि कम बैक करना है ना, तो ऐसा करना है कि पता लगे कि दोबारा से मैं वही पे जहाँ से मैं इंजरी में आया था वही मेरी परफॉर्मेंस। ऐसा नहीं था कि मैं 88 मेरा बेस्ट है तो मैं 79 या 80 मीटर से शुरू करूं। तब मैंने जब पहला कंपटीशन खेला था 2020 में, तो सीधा मैंने ओलंपिक क्वालिफाई किया था मेरी सेकंड बेस्ट थ्रो के साथ। तो वो जब ट्रेनिंग शुरू हुई तो मैं बिल्कुल ठीक हो गया था। जैसा कि मैम बोल रहे हैं कि वो थोड़ा मुश्किल था टाइम दिमाग के लिए, लेकिन जब फिजिकल ट्रेनिंग मेरी होती है तो उसमें अपने आप मेंटली और मैं फिजिकली स्ट्रॉन्ग हो जाता हूँ।
मगर तब आपके लिए एक नया भी कोच भी आया था, तो वो आपको ऐसे नहीं लगा कि कोई डाउट नहीं आया कि जैसे अभी अब मैं कोच चेंज कर रहा हूँ, अभी ये कितना क्रिटिकल पीरियड है? मुझे तो लगा था, मैंने तो बोला नहीं नहीं नहीं, हम दैट लेट्स गेट हिम अ सुपरस्टार एस्टैब्लिश्ड कोच, एंड he was very very confident, and I think that he did a good job, in hindsight, with Klaus.
नहीं बहुत अच्छा रहा मैम, क्योंकि वो एक, मैं सच बताऊं तो मुझे बहुत ज़्यादा कई बार ट्रेनिंग में सीरियस रहना पसंद नहीं है, तो वो बहुत फनी है, तो कुछ ना कुछ वो मजाक करते रहते हैं। ट्रेनिंग में कई बार अगर सीरियस भी है तो वो थोड़ा मजाक मजाक में करवा देते हैं। कई कोच ऐसे होते हैं कि पीछे डंडा ले खड़े होके कि नहीं करिए, तो वो मजाक मजाक में ऐसे करके फिर भी ट्रेनिंग करवा देते हैं। तो वो कहीं ना कहीं उनका और एक जो ट्रस्ट होता है कोच के ऊपर, वो उन्होंने बहुत जल्दी बना लिया था, क्योंकि हमारी बॉन्डिंग जो है बहुत अच्छी रही। तो उसकी वजह से उनकी जो ट्रेनिंग प्लान है और जो भी हमारा पूरा टीम वर्क है वो बहुत अच्छे से चला। तो दोबारा फिर कोशिश करेंगे मैम कि अगले साल जो आने वाले और नेक्स्ट ओलंपिक में उनके साथ और अच्छी ट्रेनिंग करके अपना जो नेक्स्ट टारगेट है उसको करेंगे कंप्लीट।
Abhinav, you went through some very painful injuries as well, and you were in rehab for almost 8 months, right? Can you talk to us a little bit about that and how you overcame it?
I think I had many dark moments in my career as well. I had injuries as well, but I think the darkest of places where I went was in my mind. I was an athlete who always struggled with self-belief, which I talked about a little bit. I was in a very lonely sport, but I always had a constant companion, and my constant companion through the 22 years in sport was self-doubt. I was always assailed by a lot of anxiety. My pre-competition stretching routine was changed with a runny tummy and dealing with my runny tummy and some nervous vomits. But that was what it was all about. I tried a lot to work on gaining confidence. I never really gained confidence, and worked with a lot of psychologists, this, that, and the other, and then I just gave up on that. And then instead of chasing self-belief, what I really started to do was try to chase self-respect. And that is probably the reason why I did all those crazy things, because I wanted to put everything into my endeavor. I wanted to put everything into the preparation. And it was about looking myself into the mirror every night before I went to bed and ask myself the difficult question, have I put in my best foot forward? Have I done my best? And when the answer was yes, I always had a good night's sleep. I learned that hard work is the best possible sedative that you can possibly get. Before I boarded my flight to Beijing, again, I asked myself this question, have I done my best in the course of the last 4 years to do everything I humanly possibly could to prepare for the Olympics? And the answer was yes, I couldn't have done anything better. And there I was a winner. I was a winner even before I shot the first shot at the Olympic Games in Beijing, because I was a winner in my own eyes. And I think that was the brightest medal of all that I ever won.
Well, just everybody should know that he was supposed to be in official practice in Beijing, and I'm walking in the mall, and he's like, oh, I'm coming with you. I said, but you're supposed to be in practice. He's like, no, there's nothing left to practice. So the next day was his competition. Everybody's in pre-competition training, and Abhinav and me were walking through the mall. They both like malls, supposedly.
That funny story, if you want me to tell about my
No. Wait, I want to actually really get into this, because this is something that is so front and center right now. But now when I look back, you were one of the first athletes to talk about mental health and talk about how much anguish and how difficult it is on your mind. And I think this is something that anybody today who has a high stress, high performance job can deal with. How do you get to that point where, where you get under so much duress that your body actually shuts down? And, it's happening to Simone Biles, it's happening to Osaka, it happened to Phelps. So what would be your suggestions to get through that?
Well, firstly, I think there's a great misconception in the world of sport that athletes are immune to any kind of mental health issues or mental illnesses, and they're mentally very strong. But on the contrary, I think an athlete's journey has far more pain points and triggers that can potentially lead to mental health issues. It's all about dealing with constant failure. It's about dealing with success. It's the physiological stress of just training, which can lead to mental health issues. It's constant travel, lack of sleep, the pressures of competition, the injuries are very hard moments, the impending end of a career, the transition out of sport is very, very difficult. But, as athletes and the larger ecosystem and the sports industry, and I particularly and consciously use the word sports industry, places a lot of emphasis on outcomes. And as athletes, we are guilty, and I was equally guilty, of believing in an equation that a gold medal equals happiness. But on the contrary, we have to work to making happiness our gold medal. And if we are able to do that, I think we will be able to achieve and sustain success much, much more. So I think this is an area where I think it's not just about educating athletes, but also the larger ecosystem to work to create psychologically safe environments for athletes. And I think it's very important in the world of Indian sport because, over the course of the next decade will be a decade for Indian sport, for sport. That means many more Indians and young children, young kids will take up sport. What that will also mean is that many Indians will also fail in sport in India because that is the very nature of sport. And we all have a collective responsibility to create enabling environments. We have a responsibility to create a dual career pathways for athletes as well, which will help them in their post-career, but I'm quite confident that will also help them perform under pressure much more. Because then they've built different identities and their self-worth is not going to be determined on where their name appears on the ranking list of a sporting competition.
Before I move to Neeraj, Abhinav, do you still have self-doubt?
Yes, at times. I mean, working for this little session, I was very nervous, so that stays. But I learned to accept it. I learned to deal with it. I have better coping strategies. But I'm always a work in progress.
You want to share some of your coping strategies with a larger audience? Because, stressful situations or a moment that you need to perform is there for everybody. Maybe not at a gold medal level, but...
I think acceptance. I think whenever we are in a difficult and sticky situation which pushes us out of our comfort zone, as human beings, we resist those situations. Just accept it. I accepted it. I have to be here this morning and I have to try and do a good job of entertaining you. So it's made my life a little bit simpler. So it is about acceptance, but it is a way of life. You have to, it's not just you use it in a stressful situation. And also gratitude. I think we take life for granted and we're always hoping and thinking about things we don't have. But we forget about all the stuff we presently have. So practicing gratitude and acceptance, I think, helps.
नीरज, आपको कभी सेल्फ डाउट हुआ कि मैं फील्ड में
नीरज को
जा
नहीं
रहा
हुआ
हूँ और बॉडी शट डाउन कर रही है, मैं फेंक नहीं पाऊंगा, मुझे
नहीं।
मैं मतलब फेंकने का तो मेरा ये है मैम कि दिमाग में एक ही चीज़ लेके जाता हूँ कि कुछ आज कसर नहीं रहनी चाहिए। मतलब ओलंपिक में तो यही था कि दिमाग में एक चीज़ ये नहीं आनी चाहिए बाद में कि यार एक दिन था मेरे पास ये और मैंने वहाँ पे कुछ कसर छोड़ दिया। मतलब मैं पूरा रेडी था वहाँ पे, टूटना फूटना चले आऊँगा, आज जितना जोर लगा सकता हूँ लगाऊंगा। पर कई बार होता है कि हाँ तैयारी इतनी अच्छी नहीं होती है, हम फिट नहीं होते हैं पूरे, पर फिर भी मैं ज़्यादा डिस्टेंस पे कंसंट्रेट नहीं करता। मैं सोचता हूँ कि बस जितना मेरे अंदर जो भी आज जितनी स्ट्रेंथ है या जो भी मेरी तैयारी है वो मैं उसका 100% दूँ बस। तो ऐसा होता है। पर कभी कभी बिल्कुल मैम बोल रहे हैं, लेकिन कभी कभी हो जाता है जब तैयारी अच्छी ना हो, तो वैसे नॉर्मली कभी ऐसा कुछ फील नहीं होता।
He represents the new age Indian athlete, so he has belief. So
But that's absolutely true. The younger generation of Indian athletes, the amount of self-confidence and self-belief they have is unbelievable. And they walk around with the chip on their shoulder and they believe that they are just at par or if not better than everybody else. And that is what I think will be the best thing that happens to Indian sport in this next decade.
But Manisha, isn't it also that Abhinav has to internalize all the emotions and be very still? He can't have anything move. And Neeraj is like taking all those emotions and throwing it out, right?
Yeah.
So,
They're very different sports, and they're sports that require such a gamut of different kind of training and different, I mean, the whole nature of it is completely different. It's really, it's not fair to compare the two. I mean,
no,
if
they're
you,
equally hard.
yeah,
They're
I mean, if you
equally
see,
hard.
okay, like, Abhinav, now tell your story. The night before the Olympics, what were you doing? Were you nervous?
Of course, it was, my sporting event is equated to a controlled panic attack. And then you have to make sense and find calm amongst chaos. But you want to tell the story. Before I boarded my flight to Beijing, I was in Munich, and I was checking out of my hotel, packing my stuff, and I looked at the minibar. And I was not really a big drinker of sorts, and I opened my minibar, and I saw 2 little miniature bottles of Jack Daniels. And for whatever reason, I packed it in my toilet kit. And the night before my Olympic final, I was nervous. I couldn't sleep. I was about to die. I thought back to my Jack Daniels, and I went to my toilet kit and opened these 2 bottles of miniatures of Jack Daniels, and I drank them. And next day, gold medal.
There we go.
That's an easy tip for everyone to follow,
I
I
was
think.
armed with self-respect, and I was armed with Jack Daniels. Who the hell could beat me on that day?
नीरज, आपने ऐसे कुछ ट्राई किया?
मतलब बाकी एथलीट का तो पता नहीं शूटर जरूरी है, टेक्निक अपनाने लगेंगे कि जैक डैनियल पीने से गोल्ड आ रहे हैं। नहीं, पर सभी का अलग अलग होता है। मैं मानता हूँ कि शूटिंग बहुत ही मेंटली बहुत ज़्यादा डिफरेंट हमसे गेम है, और बहुत ज़्यादा चाहिए इसमें मेंटल स्ट्रेंथ हमारे भी चाहिए, क्योंकि फिजिकली के साथ साथ फिजिकली फिट होना पड़ता है। लेकिन जब ओलंपिक के उधर उतरते हैं ग्राउंड में, तब एकदम फिजिकली भी हम ढीले हो जाते हैं। वहाँ पे ऐसा शरीर एकदम नीचे डाउन होता है, पर मेंटली वहाँ पे स्ट्रॉन्ग रहना बहुत ज़रूरी है। तो बिल्कुल डिफरेंट स्पोर्ट है, जैसे मैम बोल रही है। लेकिन मैंने किया है शूटिंग ट्राई, पर बहुत ज़्यादा कंट्रोल चाहिए उसमें। मतलब मेरे से हो ही नहीं पाया। पहले 2-3 बार तो मैं देख रहा था कहाँ पे लगाऊं, कि दीवार दूर पे लगी जाके गोली वहाँ पे।
No, I was a nervous wreck, and I usually am. So before Neeraj's final, I was calling his coach non-stop. So I don't really talk to the athlete, and this time I was sitting in Delhi. So I must have called the coach about 50 times. And then at 3 o'clock in the morning, on the morning of the final, the Klaus sends me a message saying, our baby slept well, now the chicken must fly. So, and it surely flew. Neeraj, जब वो competition शुरू हो गया, आपने मुझे बोला था कि आपने सिर्फ 2-3 practice throw किए। आप इतने confident तभी से थे?
नहीं, उसमें क्या हो रहा था मैम कि उधर बहुत ज़्यादा गर्मी थी टोक्यो में, और बाहर यूरोपियन एथलीट्स की और बाकी एथलीट्स की क्या आदत है कि वो 1.5-2 घंटा पहले थोड़ा थोड़ा वार्म अप शुरू कर देते हैं। और मैं वहाँ पे जाके लेट गया आराम से, बिल्कुल आधा घंटा बचा जब कॉल रूम में जाने से पहले। तो कोच मेरे से गुस्सा हो रहा है कि क्या कर रहा है। तो मैं कोच को बोल रहा था कि वार्म अप हम अपने तरीके से करें, क्योंकि जो क्वालिफिकेशन राउंड था उसमें हमने बहुत जल्दी वार्म अप शुरू कर दिया था, और वहाँ पे ही बाहर इतना ज़्यादा पसीना आ गया हमको कि अंदर के लिए ऐसा लग रहा था कि एनर्जी है ही नहीं। तो मैं आराम से लेटा हुआ है। कोच मेरे से ज़्यादा कोच में जोश था वहाँ पे, क्या कर रहा है। तो यहाँ पे सभी एथलीट वार्म अप कर रहे हैं और सभी रेडी हैं वहाँ पे जाने के लिए, पर मेरे दिमाग में ये था कि नहीं, आराम से करना है और यहाँ पे ज़्यादा जोर नहीं लगाना है। जो असली चीज़ है वो अंदर है। मतलब बाहर जब हम वार्म अप कर रहे थे वहाँ पे मैंने 2-3 थ्रो किए, और कोच भी उसमें खुश था, मैं भी खुश था। मैं बस अंदर करना है पूरा तोड़ जो भी करना है। तो अंदर जाके फिर पूरा अपना 100% लगा दिया, और बिल्कुल पहले थ्रो से बहुत अच्छा रहा।
So these are 2 very good tips, Manisha. 1, Jack Daniels. 2, sleep. Yeah. Both are very doable, guys, before a high-performance event. Manisha, what about what the athletes do to decompress? You want to tell us a little bit about that, and maybe then throw it to both of them to see what is it that they do?
Yeah, that was interesting. And so Neeraj has been on his decompression since, August 7th? August 8th?
August 7th, Javelin Day.
Yeah, but 8th, no? The actual day doesn't count as decompression. So he's been modeling and, doing the most important therapy, retail therapy, test driving fast cars. I hope he doesn't buy, but anyway. And that's important. I think that is a way for an athlete to reset their mind and kind of, get back to easing out all the pressure and somehow like flushing out all the the toxins of your body. Abhinav, what did you do to decompress? It was completely different when he came back from Beijing.
Mine wasn't so happening. I went on a Vipassana meditation course in hot and not so interesting Sona village. But it helped me because I was lost and I just needed time. I needed time with myself. You know, I had lots of invitations for conclaves and this, that, and the other. I just needed to be alone and left alone. And that was really useful for me because it taught me I was supposed to meditate, and I was lost because I didn't really know what I wanted to do in life again. I'd achieved my goal, and there was this huge void, and I actually wanted to quit sport and move ahead. But I went to this meditation course where you have to meditate 10 hours a day with a goal that I have to find my new calling in life. So I go to this meditation course, and all I did for 10 days was think back to my sport, think back to how I could get better. And that taught me something, that I loved the process of what I did. And that just energized me to get back to it and decompress and come back with renewed energy. So sometimes you get that energy in the strangest of places.
So ये जो आप शॉपिंग ट्रिप होकर आए थे दुबई में, सिद्धि, कैन वी हैव दोस फोटोज बैक? थोड़ा उसके बारे में बताएं, उसके वजह से आपके टॉक्सिन सारे रिलीज हो गए हैं अब?
नहीं, शॉपिंग की तो मैं आदत है मुझे पहले से ही, मतलब ऐसा नहीं है कि अभी करने लगा हूँ। चाहे वो मैंने जब स्पोर्ट्स शुरू किया, चाहे मुझे एक जुराब की जोड़ी खरीदनी होती थी, लेकिन उस टाइम पैसे के हिसाब से। अभी है कि अभी हाँ एयर जॉर्डन वगैरह ले लेता हूँ या दूसरे कोई शूज पसंद आते हैं।
5 एयर जॉर्डन, लेट्स बी क्लियर, नॉट 1 एयर जॉर्डन।
नहीं, पर अच्छा लगता है मैम, थोड़ा उधर गए हम, क्योंकि काफ़ी ज़्यादा यहाँ पे जब आए थे हम ओलंपिक से, तो ट्रेनिंग भी नहीं हो पा रही थी और सभी ऐसे इंटरव्यू वगैरह हो रहे थे, तो पूरा दिमाग इसी तरफ आ गया था पूरा कि यही सब कुछ है। तो अभी घूम के आए थोड़ा बाहर, तो थोड़ा फ्रेश हुए और अभी फिर दोबारा से ट्रेनिंग शुरू करनी है, तो काफ़ी अच्छा। आज थोड़ा अजीब लग रहा है वैसे मुझे, क्योंकि इतने दिन मैं छुट्टी करके यहाँ पे आते ही कल ही आए हम, और यहाँ पे आते ही आज इसमें जैसे सर बता रहे थे कि थोड़ा नर्वस फील हो रहे थे, तो मेरा भी बीच में तो आदत हो गई थी कि लगातार इंटरव्यूज वगैरह चल रहे थे। आज मैं भी थोड़ा सा अजीब सा फील कर रहा था, लेकिन अभी थोड़ा नॉर्मल हुआ हूँ।
Manisha, this is very good. Yeah, please send me also for a holiday to Dubai after the conclave. It seems to work for decompression.
If Neeraj has left any stuff to buy there.
So they say that it takes a whole village to raise a champion, right? दूसरे लोगों का क्या रोल रहता है? आपके पेरेंट्स या आपके फ्रेंड्स या आपके कोच, उसमें आप उनके साथ आप क्या रिलेशनशिप रखते हैं कि आप बेस्ट परफॉर्म कर पाएँ? ऐसे कहते हैं कि कोच मिलना एक सोलमेट के जैसे होता है, ये क्या ट्रू बात है आपके और क्लाउस के बीच में?
हाँ मैम, क्लाउस कोच के साथ तो काफ़ी अच्छा, मतलब हमारे बनती है बहुत अच्छी, लेकिन मैं कहना चाहूँगा कि फैमिली का भी बहुत ज़्यादा एक रोल रहता है, क्योंकि फैमिली, मैं लकी मानता हूँ कि उन्होंने कभी मुझे परफॉर्मेंस का कभी प्रेशर नहीं दिया कि जब मैंने शुरू किया था कि मेडल क्यों नहीं आ रहे हैं, या फिर कई बार होता है कि आजकल बहुत जल्दी परफॉर्मेंस आते हैं पेरेंट्स भी और एथलीट्स भी कई बार, तो मुझे लगता है कि वो पेशेंस बहुत ज़्यादा ज़रूरी है उसके लिए। और कहीं ना कहीं ये बहुत अच्छा रहा कि जो हमारे आसपास के लोग हैं वो बहुत हमको पॉजिटिव रखने वाले होने चाहिए, तो वो मैं बहुत अच्छा मानता हूँ कि मेरे आसपास के लोग काफ़ी अच्छे रहे हैं, पूरी टीम भी और फैमिली से भी और फ्रेंड्स भी जो भी हैं सभी स्पोर्टिव थे, तो ये बहुत ज़्यादा मुझे लगता है कि हम रोल करता है हमारे उसमें परफॉर्मेंस में भी और हमारे करियर में।
Abhinav, for you, do coaches become family?
Of course, I mean, I worked with different sets of coaches in my larger entourage. In my preparation for Beijing, I had 9 people who I was working with, and that made me become a manager of sorts as well, because some of these people didn't get along with each other. So I had to set different timings for people so that they didn't kill each other and they didn't make face contact. But there was also a coach who I did not get along with because he kept telling me things I did not want to hear. But I saw immense value in that relationship and kept going with him for many, many years. 95% of the things I didn't listen to him, but the 5% which did stick were perhaps the most valuable things that I could tell. Neeraj talks about family, and I'll just tell you one little anecdote with my mother. This happened in the 2004 Olympic Games, where I had this most crushing loss that I could ever have. And 5 minutes after this Olympic final, where my world had come breaking down, I met my mother, and she said, you know, the most you could do today was win a bronze medal or a silver medal, but you're going to go and win a gold medal, and you're going to win it in 4 years' time. So that taught me something: never argue with a mother's instinct.
So Abhinav, you are 13 years ahead of Neeraj. Any advice to him as an Olympic veteran? We are running out of time, so I'm going to skip through some of the questions quickly.
नीरज आपको मैं यही एडवाइस देना चाहता हूँ कि आपने अपना गोल तो अचीव कर लिया बट आई थिंक you have the potential to be one of our greatest athletes of all time and you can only do that when you achieve your fullest potential. So respect your passion. Respect your passion. You have to find a good relationship with your passion. You have to एक balance बनाना बड़ा ज़रूरी है with your sport. You have to respect it by giving it enough. It is with your sport. It's always almost like a relationship as you have with your girlfriend. Not too far, but not too close. So respect your passion. Make the process the gold medal. और अगर आप ये करें तो I'm sure you have many more gold medals ahead of you.
So Abhinav, talking about Neeraj being a role model, role model we'll see as he moves through life. But model तो आप बन ही गए हैं ना? ये देखिए आपके लुई विटॉन वाले फोटोज.
अच्छा पीछे चल रहा है सब कुछ हमको दिख ही नहीं रहा.
नीरज आप भी अभिनव को कुछ एडवाइस दीजिए.
अभी सर को तो मैं क्या एडवाइस दूँ जी, मतलब इनको देख के तो हम इंस्पायर हो रहे हैं, तो मैं यही बोलूँगा कि आप हमें ऐसे इंस्पायर करते रहिए सर. और क्योंकि सर का मुझे पता है कि थोड़े से साई है, वैसे मैं बोल देता कि सर सोशल मीडिया पे थोड़ा एक्टिव रही है आप, थोड़ा अपने बारे में बताते रहिए लोगों को, लेकिन जैसे है सर वैसे ठीक है.
मैं मनीषा मैडम मुझे बता रही थी कि आपका सोशल मीडिया की वैल्यूएशन 450 करोड़ की है, तो मेरे भी दिलवा दो, मैं अभी पासवर्ड दे देता हूँ.
सर वो भी कईयों को धोखा लगा हुआ है, वो 450 करोड़ सोच रहे हैं कि नीरज ने इतने कमाई लिए हैं. वो लोग उल्टा लेके जा रहे हैं उसको.
No, but he's the self-proclaimed master of reels, by the way. He said, मेरे जैसे कोई नहीं रील बनाता है. मैडम जी आप ढूंढ के देख लो, प्रोफेशनल मुझे नहीं चाहिए, मैं खुद सबसे अच्छी रील बनाता हूँ.
Siddhi, let's see one of Neeraj's latest Instagram posts.
I'm sure we have a reel.
It's the
Oh yeah.
the underwater javelin throw, new sport in Olympics.
Yeah.
नीरज, तो आप इस सेशन का एक रील बनाएंगे? क्योंकि
बना देंगे
हमारी
मैम.
कॉन्क्लेव की टीम आपके जैसे तो इतना अच्छा रील नहीं बना सकती ना.
नहीं मैम, वो फ्री टाइम में मैं ट्रेनिंग की वीडियोस देखता रहता हूँ अपनी. सबसे ज़्यादा मैं मोबाइल में बार बार, चाहे मुझे जब फ्लाइट में बैठता हूँ कभी भी, मैं अपनी ट्रेनिंग की वीडियोस या ऐसे वो देखना बहुत पसंद है. तो मैं फिर उनको क्रॉप करके मैं उनमें म्यूजिक डाल के, वो मुझे अच्छा लगता है. मतलब दिमाग में वही चीज़ रहती है, ट्रेनिंग और जेवलिन के बारे में सोचता रहता हूँ. तो वो जब वही चीज़ है ना, तो कोई शिद्दत से करे कोई चीज़ अच्छी लगती है, अच्छी बनती है वो, तो इसलिए थोड़ा वो ठीक होती है. सेशन की मैम देख लूँगा कैसा सब कुछ रहेगा. मैं
बना दे नीरज. पता है तुम्हारे इंस्टाग्राम फॉलोअर्स बढ़ भी जाए, पता नहीं 2 गोल्ड मेडलिस्ट एक साथ.
ठीक है मैम, वो एक सोशल मीडिया एक अलग चीज़ है, पर ठीक वो इतना, मतलब मैं उसको बहुत ज़्यादा ज़रूरी भी नहीं मानता हूँ. उतना सबसे ज़्यादा ज़रूरी तो अपना स्पोर्ट्स ही है, मतलब उस पर ज़्यादा फोकस है. वो इतना मैं उस पर ध्यान नहीं देता हूँ. वो कभी कभी बना लेता हूँ, ऐसा नहीं है कि मैं उसी के ऊपर फ्री टाइम में पूरा रील्स बनाने पे लगाता हूँ.
Thank you very much, all 3 of you Olympians. You have been amazing. And it's been a phenomenal session to learn from you. I think some of the tips go way above just applying to sports people, applies to any one of us who has been through a high performance situation or wants to achieve a goal or has had a touch of nerves. And thank you very much. Behind the scenes, we will obviously be making a reel, so you look out for it on social media of Neeraj and in the India Today group handles later in the day. Thank you very much.